That's my hope.
Greetings and good evening, one and all. I hope you are enjoying your weekend here at Crystal Mountain PonyCon. I know it's been a lot of fun for me. This is my third year at CMPC. How many of you here have actually been to previous year's CMPCs? Yeah, more than half, definitely more than half. And how many is this going to be your very first convention ever? Your very first convention ever. That's still about half of the audience right there. That's rather impressive. I have to say, when I first came to CMPC in 2013, this was about a month and a half before I made any kind of videos. And I had no idea that I was going to be making any kind of contributions to the fandom. I was just enjoying the content that others were creating. And seeing how far I've come now, it always just boggles my mind. It just overwhelms me by how much positive response there has been in the community. And I have to be grateful for that each and every day, that there's so many people out there who enjoy what I say, and in part I'm inspiring a lot of people to try their own talents and to see what they can contribute to the fandom, and I think that's absolutely wonderful. But for today, we're going to be focusing specifically on fan fictions and dramatic readings. And this is something that the staff at CMPC had asked me to talk about a couple weeks ago, and I think there is a lot to talk about, because whether you are writing fan fictions or whether you are reading fan fictions for audiobooks or for YouTube or any kind of dramatic reading like that, even comic dubs, a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today is going to be applying to that. Now, when I first got the itch to start doing my own dramatic readings, this was after I had been talking with another YouTuber by the name of Scribbler. How many of you people have heard of Scribbler before? Yeah. She is a wonderful, wonderful narrator who's done so many dramatic readings and comic dubs and so many other things like that. And in part, she inspired me to try my own hand, because she had, sounds like they're having quite a celebration over there. Scribbler had encouraged me to try to use my voice in a dramatic reading medium. And a lot of people throughout my life had told me that I would have a great voice for radio or TV, but it was really hard for me to believe that until I started making videos on YouTube and complete strangers were telling me that. Go figure, that my family can tell me that, my friends can tell me that, but I don't start believing it until complete strangers on the other side of the world start telling me that. But anyway, I can understand how a lot of people may think that their talents aren't worth that much until people who have never met them before start saying, hey, you have a great gift for that kind of thing. But Scribbler had encouraged me to try my voice for a fan fiction reading called A Twilight Dinner Date. And this was way back, I think it was December of 2013. And she needed someone to play the part of a thestral, which is another term for the bat pony. And she wanted someone who could use a deep, growling voice the entire time and really work your throat and have this very stoic feeling to everything you're talking about. And it really worked my voice. It really, really worked my voice, but it excited me at the same time. I had to go through an entire morning of trying to use this deep, growling voice for this character, and it's one of my favorite characters I've ever done because I've had to put so much variety in what I do. But that encouraged me to start doing dramatic readings of my own, and I think some of the first stories I attempted were tales like Why Pinkie Pie Smiles or Forever Young. That's one of my personal favorites right there, Forever Young. And that one in particular required me to use a Discord voice. Now, when you're voicing a character like Fluttershy, it's fairly easy to get away with that because you can just talk very soft and very calm and make sure that you're always using a very kind demeanor. But when you're doing something for Discord, you have to really add some variety in what you're doing. You have to say, you're going to do all these things. Oh my goodness, my dear Fluttershy. Oh, how fun you're going to be today. Now, I do not sound like John Delancey. I'm not even close to sounding like John Delancey. But I can still pull off a convincing Discord that a lot of people have enjoyed because I'm able to put in his mannerisms, his emotion. I'm able to enunciate and talk clearly and really create a character. When you're putting together dramatic readings of your own, or even when you're writing stories of your own, you don't necessarily have to be exactly show accurate. You just have to create something interesting to draw in the audience. It's okay to take a few liberties in how you voice a character or how you write a character, as long as you can tell you're having fun with it and you're creating something new that people haven't necessarily seen before. And that's one thing that has really worked for the Discord voice I keep using, because a lot of people keep requesting that I do more Discord stories because they love how I voice the character. And it's so far outside of how I usually act that because I don't agree with his actions, it becomes so much fun. And when you're writing stories, sometimes that can work too, stepping outside of your comfort zone and trying to write a character that you don't necessarily agree with. Now, something else I want to emphasize as I'm talking here, when I'm doing dramatic readings, you can't just sit like this the entire time with a stoic look on your face and read through the story and expect to get much of a positive response, because right now, as you can tell, I'm being very monotone. Now, I can attempt to put a whole lot of emotion into what I'm doing, and I can try to be happy and try to do all kinds of different things, but it doesn't sound quite so natural if you have this stoic look on your face. You have to realize that even when you're recording in a microphone by yourself, no one else is there to see you, and even if you're going to put it in a video that is not going to show your face, what you do with your face makes a tremendous difference in how you will sound and how you will project your character. Now, as you can see, I've been stepping around and I've been using my left hand constantly. This is not doing anything to help convey the message, is it? I mean, seriously, all I'm doing is just moving my left hand. But the fact that I'm gesturing with my left hand is actually making a difference in how I emote, how I enunciate. And when you are recording for dramatic readings, you have to realize that when you're trying to voice a character, you have to really act like the character, even if no one is around to see it. It's like when you're looking in the mirror and you have this grand big old smile on your face and you say a line. It's so much different than if you try to say that same line and having this big old frown on your face. You're not going to be able to make much of a difference that way. You want to avoid sounding that monotone, because even when you're narrating a story and trying to create a calm and welcoming demeanor, you still have to emphasize certain words. You still have to put in so much emotion in how you're displaying the scene and how you're displaying the character. Now, something I want to talk about today are some of the things I've learned from what I've done in dramatic readings and even from other YouTube videos of other voice actors that I want to put on today. Now, if you'll take a look at the screen over here, I want you to take a look at this line. I want you to say that line in your head. Without the context, just say that line in your head. Now, a lot of you probably already recognize exactly where this comes from, but put that aside for just a moment. When you're looking at this line, you don't necessarily know how it's supposed to sound because you don't have any idea about interpretation. You don't know about the scene before or the scene after or who's even saying the line. So if I were to say that Rarity says this line, you could simply say, Pinky, you were supposed to secure the rope. That's not very interesting. That's kind of meh. You don't know exactly what's going on in the scene. So if we add a little bit more to it, let's say that Rarity is falling to her death alongside Pinky. Now, with that kind of context in mind, you may think that Rarity would say, Pinky, you were supposed to secure the rope. Now that's a little bit better, but it's still not quite that interesting. Now I want you to listen very carefully to how Miss Tabitha St. Germain says this line. And I want you to listen exactly how she's enunciating and where she's putting her emphasis. Now, if you'll listen to that, you'll note that she puts her emphasis on the end of Pinky! And you were supposed to secure the rope! And that's a little unorthodox way of putting this particular line. But you have to realize it's not just Rarity being angry with Pinky, but it's also the fact that Rarity is panicking at the same time. When you're trying to do dramatic readings for various characters in stories, you have to realize that you want to sometimes exaggerate what you're saying. You have to make the audience feel like they're right there with the character and going through exactly what they're going through. And if you say the line, Pinky, you were supposed to secure the rope, that's not anywhere near as interesting as putting a little panicky edge into their voice and saying, Pinky, you were supposed to secure the rope! Now, I am nowhere near the level of Tabitha St. Germain. She is a fantastic VA for the show. And this is just a great example of how she's able to change where she emphasizes the words and where she adds the emotion in order to make it much more entertaining and much more unique and therefore that much more memorable. And when you're putting together dramatic readings for characters, a lot of people seem to think that you need to be more restrained because people are listening to a dramatic reading while they're working on their homework or maybe driving in the car or walking down the street, that kind of thing. But if you want to create something entertaining and interesting, you have to try to exaggerate a little bit here and there. A lot of people, when they're trying to put together their own dramatic readings, they think that maybe putting too much emphasis is a bad thing, and they end up not doing near enough. And most of the time, there is no such thing as too much emphasis or too much exaggeration. There are certain cases where you can go too far, but it's far more likely that you won't do enough. You have to really emote, really enunciate. You have to project yourself to the person that's all the way in the back of the room. If you're sitting in this small little bedroom trying to record for a line like this, you have to pretend you're in this huge panel room and you're going to project to the person who's all the way in the back of the room over here. Because if you just start being quiet and try to keep yourself calm and collected all the time, you start mumbling. And mumbling is not going to help with your dramatic readings because people really won't understand it so well. You need to enunciate. You need to project yourself. You need to really believe in what you're saying and have a ton of fun with it. Now, a lot of the time when I'm doing dramatic readings, I'm narrating. And I'm trying to keep it calm, but you don't want to go so far that it becomes monotone. You still want to be able to create that emphasis on certain words. You still want to be able to reach beyond yourself. And you want to create the scene as if the person who's listening is going to be right there in the room with the character, seeing exactly what they're seeing. You have to project yourself. So when in doubt, over-exaggerate. Really put yourself into it. Because oftentimes it's better to overdo it than underdo it. Now, another example that I want to put here is the character of Fluttershy. She's always so calm and collected, and she's always so kind and soft-spoken, and this is just a big part of her character. And so when people think that they're going to voice Fluttershy, they're always going to be talking like this because this is how Fluttershy talks a whole lot. That's not always the case, though. You have to realize that Fluttershy is not an interesting character because she's always so soft-spoken. It's a big part of her character, but it's not all of her character. So for this scene right here, her soft-spoken personality can actually make a good joke because Rainbow Dash, you rock. And that's a wonderful way to show her normal, everyday character. But you have to remember that there are scenes where she takes it to extreme levels. She doesn't always have to be soft and quiet and calm. You go to that episode like putting your hoof down, and she has to fly off her rocker, and she has to say, "No pony pushes Fluttershy around, not new Fluttershy," something to that effect. You have to realize that even this soft-spoken, gentle, quiet, timid pony becomes much more interesting and even entertaining when she steps outside of that. And when you're doing dramatic readings for stories, or even when you're writing Fluttershy as a character in a story, you can't always keep her in that calm and quiet demeanor, because what makes her stand out that way if she's that way all the time? She has to realize she's going to have her overblown moments. And here's another great example of an overblown moment. Now, imagine for a moment that Andrea Libman, with all her talent, decided to keep this calm and quiet Fluttershy voice and just say, "You're going to love me." How would that scene play out if she just kept her calm and quiet self? It's so much more memorable because this calm and quiet character suddenly broke and burst through the door and saying, "You're going to love me!" That's so much more fun, so much more entertaining, and in many ways it gives depth to her character. It makes her much more interesting because she suddenly broke. She shows that she's not always just the same calm and quiet pony she's been. And here's another great example when you take this calm and quiet Pegasus in the same scene as I was showing you before, when she finally snaps and realizes, you have to realize that Fluttershy is not always going to be that way, and Rarity is not always going to be prim and proper and saying "darling" over and over. She's much more fun and much more interesting when she can step outside of her comfort zone and do something like that. And say something, "I am not whining, I'm complaining. Do you want to hear whining? This is whining." Those scenes are so much more memorable because they're exaggerating, they are projecting, they are doing something that's even a little outside of their character comfort zones. Whether you are writing for a character or reading for a character, you can't always keep the same demeanor. You can't always think to yourself that Fluttershy is calm and quiet so much, I need to do that for my dramatic reading, even if it's a deeply emotional moment. I'm just going to keep this calm and quiet monotone voice all the time. It doesn't work so well. It's more meh kind of dramatic reading. It doesn't pull in an audience nearly as well. Now, something else I want to emphasize as far as exaggeration, and this comes from another scene from the first episode of Elements of... sorry. All right. When you think of a character, or even just yourself, when you're picking up something incredibly heavy, it's something that weighs half as much as you do, and you're trying to lug it around the house, how do you usually sound? What kind of noises do you usually make? Now think about it really. If you were to pick up something that's that heavy and you're just trying to move it around the house, you're more focused on just trying not to trip over everything and moving very slowly and making sure you don't bump into any walls. You're not focused on what sounds you're making. But when we're looking at a story, when we're thinking about a dramatic reading, we get things like this. And once again, that is exaggerating. That is overdoing it. But it's far more interesting than underdoing it. You have to realize that when you're putting together these characters, you have to make them more memorable by really pushing yourself and making it sound like it's the most horrible thing in the entire world. And even if nobody can see you, you're going to move your hands and scrunch your face, and you're going to try to push all that into the microphone, and you're going to have so much fun with it. Because when you're doing a dramatic reading, in order to get someone invested in what you're saying, you have to believe it just as much. You have to put that much passion into it for anyone to believe that there's passion there. That's the way it works. That's the way it's always going to work. Now, some other thing that I want to talk about is getting yourself known as a voice actor, or as a dramatic reader, or even just a YouTuber in general. A lot of people seem to think that if they just put a video out on YouTube, people will find it eventually. That you just put it out there and somebody will take a look at it eventually, right? It doesn't work that way. It will not ever work that way. When I was putting together reviews and analysis in my early days of making my channel. This was back in May of 2013. I realized that if I was going to put a video on YouTube, it wouldn't get any kind of attention unless I showed it to other people. Unless I made the effort, I'm going to put it on this other website that I know a lot of people who like analysis videos tend to gather, and maybe they'll take a look at it. And when I was doing dramatic readings, I was trying to do the same thing. I was trying to find what other websites are there out there where a lot of people tend to go to talk about dramatic readings or listen to dramatic readings. And even nowadays, recently Equestria Daily opened up audiobooks to put on their main page, that they're looking for people to submit audiobooks for fans to listen to, and they're going to start focusing on them and give them special attention. You want to get yourself known, you have to make that effort. You have to step way outside of your comfort zone and find the people and bring them to your channel and show them what you can do and how you can improve, and ask for their feedback. And always think to yourself, if I were to change the emphasis of a certain word, would that make it more dramatic, more comedic, add more tension to the scene? A lot of the time that I spend working nowadays, I'm an accountant by day, and as this says, unimportant at my actual job and famous among cartoon horse nerds. This is something I really thank Silver Quill for getting for me, because it's so true. But even when I'm working my job as an accountant and I'm looking at numbers and data all day, a lot of the time I will listen to my old videos, go back to my old work again and again and again, and I will think to myself, how could I have done that better? If I were to change the emphasis on certain words, or change how I'm going to do certain tone of my voice and make it very low, very soft, or very quick and sliding all over the place and trying to be bounce, bounce, bounce like Pinkie Pie and having so much fun with it. Yes. You have to try to experiment. You have to figure out where your boundaries are, and even try to push beyond those boundaries every little which way. And like I said before, it's okay if you don't sound exactly like the characters from the show, or when you're writing a character, it doesn't have to be exactly how it is from the show. People want something new. People want something interesting. If you're going to try all your hardest effort to sound exactly like John Delancey, people may be impressed that you sound just like John Delancey, but there's already a John Delancey. So if they have to choose between watching Discord from the show and Discord from a fan fiction dramatic reading, they may have fun with it, but are you really presenting anything new, or are they just going to say, hey, you just sound a whole lot like John Delancey? Now, let me think. What else was I going to talk about? Sorry, I lost my train of thought. One thing I have enjoyed about dramatic readings is the fact that I have surprised myself. I have reached beyond my boundaries, and I have tried something new by adding to what I thought was my talent for a variety of voices. But anyone can change their voices with just a little bit of effort. Going really high and really slow, or really high, really fast, and really thinking that all over the place. Or getting down low and slow and, oh, it's a wonderful day out there, and I'm going to try to do everything I can over it. But even changing your voice like this, and you got a new character, and you're going to have a whole lot of fun with that character because, oh, he's trying to go and step down computer and stuff. You might think that you don't have that much talent for changing your voice. But even if you're going to try it a little bit differently, you can always come up with something new and a little variety, don't you think? I'm still not as good as I could be. I still could add so much more variety with a lot more practice. And admittedly, I've practiced a lot on keeping calm and collected and doing the Dr. Wolf videos and creating that welcoming and understanding environment. And that's something I know I'm good at. And it's something I'm still developing. But just because I found something that I'm really good at and something that people really enjoy, doesn't mean I should always stick with just that. It's the same thing with becoming an accountant. I found out I'm really good at that. And people really love having me around to do that kind of work. I could have spent the rest of my life just doing that and having fun and not exploring anything beyond that. I never would have known that I had any kind of voice talents for this YouTube thing that I'm doing, which I'm still surprised by it all the time. I have to admit, every time I look at my YouTube channel, it just astounds me that there's so many people who love the work I do that much that they want to keep adding more and more and more. But I have to admit, it's given a lot more purpose to my free time. It's given so much more purpose to my free time. Far better use than what I used to do was watching TV and playing video games. And nowadays, I'm improving upon my talents and reaching out beyond my comfort zone and trying something I never thought I could do before. And this is what I keep telling people over and over and over again. You never know what you're capable of until you get out there and try. Try to do something that's even way outside of your comfort zone, because it's still so hard for me to get in front of a crowd like this and try to keep myself from hiding behind the table and just trying to be Fluttershy the whole time. There's still part of me that wants to do that even right now. There's still a part that struggles with that. But it can change. It can get better, no matter what kind of talent you're wanting to try. Whether it's making YouTube videos or writing fan fictions or drawing artwork or creating music, challenge yourself. This is what I keep trying to tell people. You can challenge yourself. It's really not about trying to find what's easy. It's trying to find something that's worthwhile. What is worth your time? What is going to expand upon your choices for the future? I mean, the actions you're taking today, are they going to limit your options, or are they going to build upon them? The time that you spend in front of the TV or the computer or with friends or watching movies or whatever it is you choose to do with your time, is it going to limit your options, or is it going to expand upon them? That's something I have to question every single day. Is what I'm doing, is that going to help my future? Is that going to expand upon what I can do for the future? It still surprises me how far I've come, but it's still something I have to emphasize over and over and over. I know we were talking about fan fictions and dramatic readings, but this is what keeps coming to mind, that I urge each and every person within the sound of my voice to reach beyond yourself. Find something that you know you would love doing, even if you're terrified to try. And figure out how to struggle your way past that hesitation. All right.
And how long have we been doing here?
Yeah, it's a little more than half an hour. Say that again?
There's a video on YouTube that a friend of mine, I'm also a sort of result user at the art moment, Wish this.
Yeah.
So he sent me this one video link saying this and those particular clips you showed us were on that.
Yeah, on that video. And like I said, there are a lot of other resources out there that will show you exactly what you should be studying and what you should be trying for. And I was using some of those same ideas because it's what helps to emphasize what I'm talking about today.
And you use very similar words.
Yeah,
So you did watch that video.
I did watch that video, and I've added a lot of my own thoughts as well. I am grateful that I have had the opportunity to do as much as I have been able to do within the community. And I honestly wish that more people would, because it is a wonderfully welcoming and understanding and creative and just all-around fun community from everything I've seen thus far. There is so much good that I just want to keep perpetuating it and encouraging it and helping it to grow in any way I can. So thank you each and every one who has come here to CMPC today and helped to make this thing even better because of it. So cheers to each and every one of you, and thank you once again. All right, I think we could open up the floor for some questions. We have one question way in the back here.
Only heard about you this weekend. Are you actually a doctor?
I am not an actual doctor. I get that question a lot. And a lot of people even think you should be a doctor, you should be a psychologist, you should be doing therapy sessions. But I'm an accountant. I just happen to be a very good listener who others enjoy listening to. And that's how it works. Over here in the front. I am absolutely proud of what I've been able to accomplish. I want to be able to do even more because I want to be able to influence others for good in ways I never thought I could before. Okay, the question is, why did I choose the name Dr. Wolf, and why did I choose to make a wolf OC instead of a pony OC? Now, first off, for the name Dr. Wolf, I have been fascinated by wolves ever since I was a child. That is something that's always been a part of me. And I suppose the name Dr. Wolf came sometime in maybe late 90s or early 2000s when I was just fiddling with a lot of different initials in front of Wolf and using DR, which I hadn't realized at the time. Other people thought, oh, does that mean doctor? And I'm like, no, I don't think so, but I don't know, it just works. DR Wolf, because that's initially what it was, it's just DR Wolf. But it had been going on for so long that so many people thought it meant doctor. I'm like, really? Do I really want to be called Dr. Wolf? It doesn't really work so well. But when I made my very first YouTube video, and I already had the address drwolf001 on YouTube, I figured, you know what? It makes more sense for people who have never met me before to just say Dr. Wolf. And from there, it just really, really, really stuck with everybody who came in contact with me. The fact that I chose a wolf OC over a pony OC. In the early days of making videos for my channel, I had no OC whatsoever. I was just showing still images and talking about the characters while they were going by. That was it. And it wasn't the greatest presentation, but it was enough to make it work. But within the first couple of weeks, people were saying, why don't you have an OC? Are you ever going to make an OC? And I thought, well, I suppose I probably should because I've already made like 10 videos at this point, and people want to see what I would actually look like and put a character to this voice. And initially I was thinking, well, everybody else is making pony OCs, I suppose I should too. It would probably make the most sense. But the more I looked into it, the more I realized I am not a creative type, not even close to creative when it comes to art or what looks good. I have no idea how to create a character that will stand out from the thousands upon thousands upon thousands of other pony OCs already out there. I just couldn't come up with any good ideas that way. But I already had the name Dr. Wolf, and it just made much more sense to say, you know, if I had a wolf OC, that would instantly stand out from everyone else's pony OCs in the fandom. No matter where I go, people would already know, oh, hey, it's that wolf guy. So, an artist had contacted me and said, I will draw whatever you want, I just want to be a part of this. And I said, okay, let's figure out what Dr. Wolf looks like. And we made him covered in white fur with a suit and tie and vest. And I thought he should be a psychologist because he's a doctor and he has this calm and welcoming demeanor. And since my very first video was all about Fluttershy, let's put Fluttershy in that office, and she's talking about everything that's been really troubling her. And that was the very first piece of Dr. Wolf fan art of any kind. It's still on my channel page, and it still looks wonderful, and it's really helped to drive the character into what he is today. Any other questions? One over here.
Yeah, I actually have an idea for a video you could do for a Halloween special.
What's that?
You're Dr. Wolf, right?
Right.
Maybe you could do a thing where you become a werewolf for an episode with the other
Mr. Hyde sign kind of game?
Yup.
I wonder what would happen to Dr. Wolf to make him change so much, because he's always this quiet and calm and timid character. He's been discorded. It's an idea. I don't know how I would make that work, or what direction I should take with it, but
Maybe you should have
yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are already thinking, oh, that sounds like so much fun. But Halloween is still months away. Maybe I'll come up with something. Maybe. Please don't quote me on that, though.
Famous last words.
All right, any other questions? I've got one over here.
I've entertained thoughts about getting into voice stuff, but I've never really known where to start. What kind of advice would you have for an aspiring voice person?
Well, for one, practice with yourself. You want to look at yourself in the mirror and say what you're going to say and think, how can I make that sound better? Where am I going to put the emphasis? Because something that will help a lot of aspiring voice actors is where you're going to put the emphasis in the word. Usually the last word, the last consonant of a word is where you should put the emphasis. But if you do that on every word, it sounds more unnatural. So you have to find the right words in order to put an emphasis on. And that takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of study, and you gotta just work it through and listen to yourself and work it through again. Now, if you're talking about starting with a standard little microphone, I use something called a Shure SM58 with a standard pop filter and a 4IS box or 2i4 or something like that, Scarlett 2i4 box. And that's how I connect to the computer, and it's a very durable and very reliable microphone. And it doesn't cost nearly as much as a lot of the other professional microphones out there. But even in my early days of making videos for my channel, I had no microphone except what was on the laptop itself, this little speaker on the side. That's all there was. And it didn't sound the greatest, but I figured out that if I have my face right here when I'm recording at a specific distance, it can sound better. And if I use Audacity, the noise removal tool, to remove a lot of background static, that helps it to sound better. And there have been many cases where YouTubers will be making dozens of videos with just that very basic microphone and still gain an audience because people like listening to what they have to say and not necessarily how it's coming out. It does make a difference to have a better microphone, but that's far from the biggest priority. It really is. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? One over here.
Moving back towards a more fan fiction direction, how does one get out of a writer's block?
How does one get out of a writer's block? Now, this is something I run into rather frequently because I am making 3 to 5 videos every single week. I've been keeping it up for about 2 years. And writing scripts, when you don't feel all that creative and you feel stuck, that can be really hard. But it's important to keep yourself busy working on something to help move you along. It doesn't necessarily have to be the same script for the same project, that you just stare at the screen until something comes out. Whenever I feel stuck, I will think, okay, well, if I'm stuck with this project, maybe I can record lines for this project. And after I'm finished recording lines, I'll go right back to this and see whether I can think of anything that's right on this first script. Or sometimes I will say to myself, you know, I've been scripting for a while and I'm feeling like I can't get anything more. I am going to go read up on how else I can improve my editing. I'm going to think, how can I try something new with iMovie so next time I'm making a video, I can tweak it a little bit and make the presentation a little bit better, because iMovie is a very basic video editing program, and I know there's so many others out there that are far superior to it, but that's what I've learned because that's what came with the computer, and it's just something I've learned to do, make the videos I have with it, because I don't rely that much on a visual style, but there are things you can do with iMovie to help push it beyond what you thought it was capable of. But allowing yourself to be idle, allowing yourself to just sit on the couch and veg for a while, will not help your creativity come back nearly as well as keeping yourself busy with something else that you know is going to be productive. Because you can always do something productive if you're dedicated enough to keep yourself busy. Because idleness, more than anything, will kill your creativity. There are moments when you're going to have to take a break and you feel a little burned out. And I myself have run into situations where for even a solid week, I can't think of any new scripts. I can't write a single word for any new projects. But I can still find ways to keep myself busy, even if I'm burned out on writing scripts. Does that help?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Question over here. If Dr. Wolf had a cutie mark, what would it be? What would it represent? I don't honestly know. I've had that question before, and I don't know if there is any one thing that could define Dr. Wolf and everything he does. But then again, it doesn't necessarily have to be one thing. I mean, you look at something like a rarities cutie mark, the 3-gem cutie mark. That could refer to her being able to find gems in ways nobody else really can, or it could refer to the fact that she finds beauty where nobody else is able to. Refer to the fact that she's able to create awe in her audience in ways that nobody else could. You could interpret that in many different ways. It isn't just one thing, even though it's 3 gems. I don't honestly know what Dr. Wolf should have that would represent. You have an idea?
I actually do have an idea. I was thinking of it in the shower, of course. But I got a clipboard with a green heart on it.
A green heart, huh? Why a green heart?
Because green is usually a symbol, a symbolic color for life or growth. And I see your videos as being more focused on like growing another person or giving life to another person. So, and kind of healing as well.
So a clipboard with a green heart representing life and helping others to grow. Maybe that could work, I don't know. But in order for Dr. Wolf to have a cutie mark, first he has to be transformed into a pony or a pony-like creature.
Go, mad artists, to your drawing board!
Okay. How are we on time? Okay. It's probably, oh, don't get stuck here. Okay. Well, I feel like, at least I hope, that we've covered a lot of good things during this panel. I hope that we've been able to answer some of your questions here and there. I really think that if you're willing to put yourself out there and practice and study and practice and try different things and practice and expand outside of your comfort zone and practice and practice and practice some more. I gotta keep emphasizing that because it's been over 2 years of making over 400 videos to reach where I am now. And I know that I can still improve in so many different ways. I know that I can still expand upon my talents and my creativity. And it's still going to surprise me. It's still going to surprise me what I'm capable of. You just have to realize that it's going to take a long time to get as good as you'd like to be, a very long time. And you have to have the passion to make it happen, no matter what. You have to decide, this is what I want out of life. This is what I believe is worthwhile. So, with that in mind, as per usual, I am Dr. Wolf, and I look forward to hearing from you. days I'm going to get used to being in front of a crowd like this, but the Fluttershy in me is still cringing with everything It's still hard for me. But I am changing that ever so slowly. I'm struggling through that ever so little bit at a time. Here. All right. I think